My name is Lawrence Vijayanathan. Today I'm sharing with you a true experience that happened to me approximately 18 years back in Toronto, Canada. On March 22nd, 2006, I was powerfully touched by Jesus Christ. I am a born Catholic. My father, mother, my grandparents, my ancestors are all Catholics. From my young age, I was brought up in the Catholic faith. I went to church, I did my confessions, etc., received communion. All these things that I did was more of because my parents had asked me to go to church and so forth, like most people do. But I really did not have a connection with God, or I never thought about God. My prayer life would be like 5 minutes in the night. I would tell my prayer and go to sleep. I had even never opened the Bible and read the Bible. After I got married, my married life for the first 10 years was not the greatest. Me and my wife, we had a lot of issues, arguments. It would not happen daily, but every 2 to 3 months, we would get into a big argument. Small issues became big issues. I was a very hot-tempered person. And she was a very emotional person. So a lot of things went wrong. We got into small things would become big arguments. She would cry, raise her voice. I would lose my temper. Life was not the best. I have 3 girls, my daughters. Sometimes these kids would be crying and I would not even know that they were crying because the argument was so intense. But the next day we would be back to normal and we would go back into our normal life. Sometimes even to church we go and after church we have arguments. This continued for the first 10 years of our life. I had never mentioned about my problems with my 2 siblings, my elder brother and my elder sister, nor with my parents. None of my friends knew about it. I always thought I can overcome it and things will be okay, but it never got better. For whatever reason, in 2005, November, for the very first time, I went to my parish. My eldest daughter, she used to be like a secretary helping out. While she was in school, she used to be a secretary in the evenings helping out the church, my parish. So I went to my parish priest for the very first time. I reached out to somebody and that was the parish priest. So I went to him, I told my issues, the issues in the house. And then the priest asked me if I had seen this happening in my house when I was a young kid. I told him I have never seen any kind of arguments between my parents. I never heard my mom raise her voice at all. And there was no arguments at all in my house. And still it was happening in my personal life. Then the priest said that maybe I have an anger problem that needs some kind of, somebody has to help me out. So I said, it doesn't matter, whatever that will fix the problem, I'm ready to do it. So he sent me to the Catholic organization that helps out in anger management. So I went for 3 sessions. Every Saturday mornings, I went for 1 hour sessions, but none of them helped. After 3 sessions, I quit because I felt that this is not going to help me. And I went back to my normal life. And then all these issues continued the way it was until March 22nd, 2006, when God, Jesus Christ, touched me. Now, I used to live in an apartment, right? Apartment in Toronto. Apartments are like small units, right? Like houses, your units. And in the mornings, I used to bring my daughter, 2 girls, down to go in the bus to school. So when I come down, there used to be another Indian lady. Her name was Fiona Pinto. She used to bring her son and daughter. So I used to start chatting with her. Anyways, they had bought a house of their own and they had moved out of that place, and we also had bought a house and we had moved out of the place. So on March 20th, my wife, when she was coming on the bus, she missed the bus stop to come to our house, and she had gone and got off at the next bus stop. So since she has got off at the next bus stop, there is a store, a clothing store called Venus. So she went into this clothing store to buy or to look up for clothes. When she was in the store, she met Fiona Pinto after approximately 2 odd years, because we had both bought our houses and we had moved out. So this lady had spoken to my wife, and then she told my wife there was a renowned priest coming from India, Kerala, from the Divine Retreat Center, and his name was Father Agustin Valluran. So this priest is going to have a service at a church close to my house. The name of the church is St. Timothy's Catholic Church. And it was going to be on March 22nd, 2006. So this was 2 days prior. So my wife took the flyer, it was a piece of paper, and came back home. And when she came back home, she told me about this priest having the service on the 22nd and that she wants to go for the service. I said, it's okay, we can go. So on 21st, I went to work, which was a Tuesday, and I came back home. And when I came back home, I had a small misunderstanding with my wife. So I did not talk to her that night, and I went to sleep. March 22nd, as usual, I went to my job, and I came back home. When I came back home, my wife said that she wants to go for the service. And I said, okay, fine, let's go. So we went for the service to St. Timothy's Church. That's about 5 minutes drive from my house. So we go to the church, and since my wife was kind of mad with me, she got off the vehicle and she left. She was from my van. I had a van. She got off the van and she went into the church. Anyway, I off my van engine, and then I followed her, and she was seated around the third seat. But she had left a little space for me, so I went and sat next to her. So Father Agustin Veluran, for the first time I saw him, he came and he had his normal service. He's from Kerala, India, from Divine Retreat Center. And he had his normal 1 hour service. And after the service, he said that he wants to have a small talk for about 15 minutes about those who are serving in the church, because there's a lot of issues sometimes between people who are serving the church. So he wanted to have a small talk. And he said anyone who wants to listen or who is serving in the church can stay on. Most of the people who were in the church never left, so we stayed on too. So he spoke for about 15 minutes, and then afterwards, he said that anyone who wants blessings can come up front, and he's going to bless. So there were 4 white priests, Canadian priests from my parish, and Father Agustin Veluran. So Agustin Veluran was on the right corner in front, and the other 4 priests were next to each other. So 5 of them up front. And people were in lineups going and getting blessings. So me and my wife, we were in the middle aisle going and getting blessing from a white priest. So as we were going up to get blessings, I saw when this priest lift up their hand and praise, some people were just like falling on the ground, like kind of getting knocked down. So I turned around and asked my wife, like, what's going on in this church? Because I rarely see this happening in the Catholic Church. And my wife told in my language, just let's get the blessing and go back home. So we go up, both of us go up and get the blessing from the white priest. Nothing happened to me. And then we were turning back and we were going back to go home. So as we were walking in the aisle, middle aisle, and coming along to go out, my wife suddenly said, maybe we should get a blessing from Father Valluran. After all, he is the anointed priest who has come from India, and we may never see him again. So I said, okay, fine, let's go get a blessing from him. So now by this time, the church crowd had lessened. So we went up to the priest. I was standing on the right-hand side, and she was on the left. So the father lifted his hand, and he kept it on my head and on her head, and he said something. As soon as he kept his hand on my head, his left hand, on my head, I felt something very heavy in my heart. For 2 minutes, he prayed, and then I came back to the back of the pew. At the last seat, I stood, and I was watching this priest. My eyes was fixed on this priest. All the while, something was happening in my heart. My wife was walking around talking to everyone, and she was talking to some of her friends in the church, I suppose. And then after about 10 minutes, she came back and she said, let's go. So I said, okay, fine. Went up to the van and drove my van to my house. It's about 5 minutes drive. So as I'm driving, I can feel this, some kind of a stirring up in my heart. I don't know what it is, but something stirring. So I come into the house. As soon as I enter my house, on my left-hand side of the inside, as soon as I enter the house on the left side, there's a small washroom. We call it powder room here in Canada. So I enter this washroom and I close the door. Now, I didn't tell anything to my wife what was going on. From the church, I didn't mention anything. I just walked into the washroom and I closed the washroom and I looked at the mirror. I kept my hand on the sink. There's a sink in my washroom, and looked at the mirror in the washroom. As soon as I looked in the mirror, a drop of tear came from my eye. Slowly, it started dropping from my eye, from my right eye. And then suddenly I heard this voice, a male's voice, speaking in English. And these are the words that were told to me. My name is Jesus Christ. I came to Israel 2000 years back. All the people in this world are my children. I am the true God. Open your eyes and see. Everybody looks the same, but except for two things. One is the color of their skin and the language they speak. These are the only two things. Other than that, everybody has two eyes, one nose, one mouth, ears, hands, etc. Still you fight, still you kill each other. Then he mentioned two countries. One was Iraq and the other was Sri Lanka. I am from Sri Lanka. He said, look at these countries, look at the amounts of killings, even though all of these people are my children. Why are you killing each other? Why are you fighting with each other? Then he started telling me all the wrong things that I had done from the age of around 7 years, from the time I knew what was right and wrong, all the way until I was 39, which was in 2006. I was 39 years. He started telling me every wrong thing that I had done in my life, even the 1 rupee that I had stolen from my mother's purse as a young kid. He has written it somewhere. He started telling me all these things. I stood there in front of the mirror and I was weeping. Tears were pouring down my eyes, both eyes. I felt so ashamed of myself. Not because of my actions, but because I felt here was this person who had created me, this powerful God, the creator of the world. And here I am, a small man, a small creature. And I have been thinking so big about myself, doing things the way I wanted to. And there he was, earnestly waiting for me. So after 15 minutes of this encounter where he was talking to me, everything stopped. Then I came out of the washroom and I went to the upper level. The house has 2 levels, main level and a top level. So I went up quickly to the top level because I didn't want my 3 girls to see me. My youngest was 6 years. My eldest was around 14 years and the other one was 12 years. I didn't want the girls to see me crying. So I went up quickly to the upper washroom, the upper level, and took a white towel and wiped the tears, washed my face and wiped the tears. Then I came down, but the weeping didn't stop. I couldn't stop it. I came down and I saw my wife in the kitchen. She was cooking. So I called my wife by name and I told her to forgive me for whatever I have done, whatever wrongs I have done, to forgive. She didn't understand what was going on. She didn't know why I was crying, but she hugged me and she said, I have forgiven you. Don't worry. That night I went to sleep. When I went to sleep, I had a friend of mine, a Jewish friend. I had my university education here in Canada, actually in Montreal, Canada. While studying there, I was very good in my math. I used to help this Jewish friend. His name was David Susan. So when he went to Israel, he wanted to bring me something. I said, I don't need anything. Don't worry about it. But still, he brought me a cross and a rosary from the Holy Land. He gave it to me in the year 1997. Yes, 1997. You see, the rosary and the cross, it was in a box and tied with a kind of a string. I was not a religious person, so I had not opened this box at all. I had just left it somewhere, and I had never thought about it. But that night, on 22nd March 2006, I do not know why, but I went and looked for this box. And I opened this box, took the cross, kept it on my chest, middle chest, and took the rosary and kept it under my pillow and went to sleep. I remember my wife asking me to turn around and sleep looking at her, but I was looking at the wall, blank wall, and I was sleeping. Now, the weeping did not stop. The weeping continued for 7 hours from the time it started. I couldn't stop it. It was just pouring. It was just pouring. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, I felt a powerful kind of an electric current go from my top of my head to the tip of my toe. I could say it was like a seizure, right? And in my body started shivering for about 3 to 4 minutes. And then I fell asleep. Now, suddenly around 5 o'clock, I jerked and I got up. And I woke my wife and I told, wake up, wake up. And she asked me, like, what's going on? And I told her I saw a dream. I saw a dream where I was wearing a brown color shirt, a black pants, black shoes, and my right hand I had a Holy Bible. And I was walking on the street. Now, the shirt that I was wearing was one of my favorite shirts. I used to love wearing kind of forces, the army, those kind of shirts. So it was one of those shirts that I was wearing. And I was walking on the street with the Bible in my hand. My wife was walking behind me. She was not walking with me. She was further behind. And I was walking. And I walked up to a white lady and I asked her, do you know who Jesus Christ is? Then I started walking a few more steps and I saw a black lady standing at a bus stop. I think she had about 3 kids. And I walked up to her and I said, do you know who Jesus Christ is? That's when I woke up. And I told my wife, I had this weird dream. I saw myself walking on the street talking to people about Jesus Christ. And then my next question was, do we have a Bible in the house? I would like to read it. This was at 5 in the morning. And she said, the exact word she said was, there must be a Bible, but do not put the light at this time because it would disturb my sleep. So I didn't move from the bed. I just sat in the bed. I didn't sleep. I sat up and I was just sitting there and just waiting. I was afraid. I was frightened. I was thinking, like, what's going on here? Around 5:45, I told my wife, get up, let's have a cup of coffee. I had a cup of coffee. And around 6:45, I went to office. I'm a software engineer by profession. So I opened my computer at my office and I typed in Google search, who is Jesus Christ? I wanted to know if this is history, if there's any truth to it. Was there a person called Jesus Christ who came to this world? Did he really live 2,000 years back? Is he a God? Is he man only? I started reading about Islam. I started reading about Hinduism. I downloaded a Bible. I started reading the Bible. I didn't understand anything. Whole day I did not do any work. All that I was doing was just confused and searching the whole day. After work, I came home. So when I came home, I came around 5 o'clock. My wife told me that the same priest, Father Augustine Valuran, is having another service at a church called Epiphany. That's also close to my house, about 15 minutes drive from my house. So for this service, myself, my wife, my eldest daughter, and my youngest daughter, all of us went. My second daughter did not come because she was living elsewhere in the university. So we go to the church, and as I enter the church, I lift my leg and keep my leg into the church. And for the very first time in 39 years, I felt like I'm going into a holy place, which I never felt. All this while, it was just a building. I had no feelings. But this time around, I felt like I'm going into a holy place. So we go into the church, and as usual, which I don't go in front, I stand at the back. So with my family, I'm at the back. And when the songs were sung, I noticed that for the very first time, I'm singing. Actually, my voice was higher than the volume of the rest of the people in the church. Anyways, Father Veluran came and he had his service, the 1 hour service. He was the only person in this church. And at the end of the service, as the service was finishing, he started calling out some names. And he called out my name. And he said, Lawrence, Jesus Christ is calling you. Come and serve him. As soon as those words came out of his mouth, I felt as if though those were words spoken by God himself, asking me to do something for him. So after the service, as the previous day, Father told anyone who wants blessings can come to get the blessings. So we were, myself and my youngest daughter, she stood next to me, and my wife and my other daughter, elder daughter, were behind us. And one of my wife's friend and her mother was behind them, and then the rest of the people, and in front there were some people. So we had to come to the top near the altar and wait in a circle. And the Father would come blessing each other, blessing the people. So as the Father is coming blessing, my daughter asked me, Dad, what should we pray? I said, close the eyes and tell the Our Father. So I told this to the youngest. So I closed my eyes and I told her to close the eyes. And as the Father was coming, I heard his footsteps near my daughter. As soon as I heard his steps near my daughter's name is Stephanie, there was a wind that came, I don't know from where, and it hit my face. And I got thrown down in the church, on the floor, just knocked down. My youngest daughter knelt next to me and started crying. She thought I was dead. But actually, I was not. I was slain by the Spirit, which is what I got to know later. My body had no feelings and there was no strength, but I could hear everybody singing, people talking, everything. After about 5 minutes, a few of the church people came, held me up. And then I got up and I walked up to the back of the church. When I came, I saw my wife. She was tearing. Anyways, after Mass, me, my 2 girls, my wife, we came home. And I went to sleep. The next day, Friday, again, I couldn't do any work in office. I was confused and doing research, etc. And the whole day went by. Then when I came home, my wife told me Father Augustine Veluran was going to have a 2-day retreat at a school called St. Bonaventure School. Bonaventure School, it's at a main intersection called 401 and Islington in Toronto. So we bought tickets. It was around $10, the ticket was. And we went for this service, Saturday and Sunday. So when I went to this service, myself and my wife, we went. I took a small Gideon red Bible that was lying around in the house. It was a New Testament Bible. I didn't know anything about it. So we went to the service and the place was packed, about 700, 800 people. And they were singing and praying the whole day from 9 o'clock till evening 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, Father Augustine exposed the Blessed Sacrament. And he said, if anybody who is sick, that he's going to pray for about 15 minutes. And if you believe in Jesus Christ, any sickness that you have will be healed. So I heard after 15 minutes, he said that 10 people are healed of cancer, 12 of smoking, etc. So many numbers. He gave some numbers and he asked them to go and check with the doctors or to see the difference right away. Anyway, I didn't ask for anything, and that was Saturday. Sunday, again, we went for the service from morning 9 till evening. It was a retreat. People were lifting their hands. I myself, I was shy, but I lifted and I also started praying the way I knew. And as the Father was taking the Bible and looking at the Old Testament and telling to go and look at the different chapters. I didn't know about Old Testament and New Testament. I was having the Gideon New Testament and I was looking. I didn't find anything because it was from the Old Testament. Anyway, at 5 o'clock, he exposed the Blessed Sacrament. And once again, he said, anyone who believes in Jesus Christ, ask and you shall be healed. Now, I had for 13 years on my left shoulder a rheumatic shoulder attack. So this started when I was very young in the university in Montreal. I had gone to the main hospital, the Jewish hospital in Montreal, and seen the specialist there, and they said, there's no cure for this. It usually comes for people who are 70 to 80 odd years when they're very old, but it had come very young to me. So it might be because of the cold climate that I was not used to, because I had come from Sri Lanka, from a hot country. The only thing that I had to do was every morning before I go out, I had to take a shower with hot shower, right? The hot water, I had to leave it for about 10 minutes on that area where the pain is. And then I would get about 2 hours relief. And then the pain would come back. Even when I go shopping to the mall, etc., I would just sit. After a little while, I cannot walk. So I sit while my wife and my kids go and do the shopping. They come back, and then I come home. It's excruciating pain. So on Sunday at 5 o'clock, when the Blessed Sacrament was exposed, I closed my eyes and I asked Jesus, Jesus, heal my shoulder of this pain. So after 15 minutes, the priest started mentioning the number of people healed of cancer, eyesight, diabetes, etc., etc., etc. And then he said, one person is healed of shoulder pain. You should feel a hot sensation going through your left shoulder. I did not feel any hot sensation, nor did I think it was me. So I came home. And the next day morning, which was Monday, I did my normal routine, put the hot water on my shoulder for 15 minutes. And then I went to my work. I started doing my work. Around from 9 o'clock, I started in office. Around 11:30, I usually get the pain. And I did not get the pain. My left shoulder felt as if though somebody has put an injection and made it numb. It was like before going for an operation. And the right shoulder was soft. So I got up from my seat and I ran to the girl next to me. She was a Pentecost. And I told her everything that had happened. I told her about my person who was talking to me for 15 minutes. I told her about the electric current that I felt in my body. I told her about the dream. I told her about the priest calling my name. And then I told her about this healing. And I told her my shoulder is now numb. I don't know what's going on. So she told me, maybe God is going to use you for something. Anyways, that evening I came back home. And when I came home, I told my wife, you know, the priest told one person is being healed of shoulder pain. I told her, maybe it's me. Let's leave it for 2 weeks and see if it is me. After I told this, myself and my wife, we went to do some shopping. We went to do some groceries to actually buy some vegetables. So I enter into this store. It's called Price Chopper, about 10 minutes from my house. As I enter this store, this pain started to come back. The pain that was not there the whole day. The shoulder was numb, but now the pain started coming back. I couldn't take the pain any while I was in the store. So I told my wife, let's go. I need to go to the pharmacy and get some Tylenol. Tylenol is something that you take for pain, to relieve pain. So I went and bought these tablets, came back home and took this Tylenol and went to sleep. Now, let me tell you, I had never taken Tylenol before this. Even though there was pain, I never took it. But this was the very first time it was so severe. So I took this Tylenol, went to sleep. Next day morning, I woke up. Tuesday, the pain was still there. I put the hot water, the pain didn't go away. Normally, when I get up in the morning, I'm okay. But this time the pain was there. So I go to office. I go up to my seat where I sit. And then I didn't even on my computer. I closed my eyes. I looked up to heaven. And I told Jesus, I'm sorry for doubting you. Because I said, let's leave it for 2 weeks and see. I will never doubt you. Please heal me of this shoulder pain. I don't want this pain. It's excruciating. I cannot take it. I cannot bear it. Please don't allow this to come back. That was it. It just disappeared. The shoulder pain completely went. I have been without shoulder pain for the past 18 years. No pain. It's back to normal. Then I started reading the Bible. In the meantime, I wrote my testimony, my experience, and I sent it to Father Valuran in India. And I told him of this experience. And I started reading the Bible. The Bible I read was a grade 12 high school Bible of my daughter, which was in my room. The very Bible that I downloaded and read, which I couldn't understand, I understood every word. It took me 19 months to read the whole Bible. Slowly, every day, I sat in my room all alone, half an hour reading, and somebody started teaching me the Bible. So as I grew in my faith, the testimony that I gave to Father Valuran, I started sharing that testimony to my co-workers. I started printing it and giving it. I thought I had written it for Father Valuran, but actually it was written to be given to others. 1 year later, this was the last experience I had. 1 year later, my daughter was 7 years old, my youngest daughter. I was taking her after math class. I took her for tuition to a place called, they call it Kumon, a Chinese place, where children are taught to get better in math. I took her after the classes and I was rushing because around 6:30 I had to do my taxes. And the tax person who does the taxes for me, yearly taxes, he closes the place at 6:30 and I was running out of time. So I was kind of speeding. I was going on a major street. The name of the street is Birchmount Street. I was driving quite fast on this street and I was going in the south direction. The speeding limit was around 60, but I was kind of going around 65 to 70 kilometers per hour because I needed to go there before he closes the place. So now I had just passed an intersection called Finch. And as I passed Finch, there were a lot of vehicles going in front as well as back. And it's a two-way street, so both ways vehicles are traveling. As soon as I passed this Finch on Birchmount, suddenly my van passed over something on the street. And I got this message in my head, which said, stop your vehicle right now and go and see what's that. What did you pass on? So I braked and stopped my vehicle on the middle of the street. My daughter, my youngest daughter who was next to me, asked me, Dad, what are you doing in the middle of the street? You know, it's dangerous. I said, no, hold on. I went over something. I got to go and see what it is. So I got off the vehicle and ran to the back of the vehicle. And when I went to the back of the vehicle, to my utter surprise, there was a Holy Bible, a black Holy Bible. It was open. I did not notice what page it was open on, but it was open and it was on the middle of the road. I took the Bible in my hand and I looked at it. And surprisingly, it was in my mother tongue. It was a Tamil Bible. It was Tamil is my mother tongue. It was not only a Bible, it was a Tamil Bible. I took the Bible and came back, running back into the van. And I got into the vehicle and I told my daughter, Stephanie, God is after me. He is showing me signs. Look at it. There are vehicles going in front of me. None of them stop. There are vehicles coming behind me. It was not shown. But to my eyes, this Bible was shown. I brought the Bible. I have it in my room. I don't read it in Tamil. Most of the time I read Bibles in English. I have many Bibles in my room. I read a lot of books about Jesus and all these things. And I incorporated this last experience of 1 year afterwards where I saw the Bible in my testimony. And I started to print it and give to many, my friends, my relatives, unknown people, etc. But I never made a video of my experience. This is the first time I'm making a video of my experience of God. One day you and I are going to die. You know, in this life, we seek so many things. We run after houses, we run after mortgages, we run after education, credentials, everything. We look for good looks, good clothes, money, good cars, etc. But one day, all of us are going to die. It could happen today. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen in 50 years. If lucky, maybe we might live till 100 years. But every one of us are going to die. There's only one thing guaranteed in life. 100% guarantee is death. Nothing in life is guaranteed. Only thing that can be guaranteed is death. Every other thing, there's a probability, right? There's a probability, yes or no, success, failure, etc. But all of us are going to die. No one who has died has come back to say what's on the other side. But God has chosen different people at different times. For years and years, he has been sending prophets. He has been sending messengers. He has been sending pastors. He has sent normal people like you and me with so much of experiences to get to know God and to tell the world that there is life after death and there is judgment after death. And that all of us will one day live in happiness with God, in paradise. You and I are not created to die. You and I are created to live forever. I will follow up with 2 more videos about why we have to believe in Jesus and what's the connection between God, man, and Jesus Christ. But I can guarantee you there is life after death and we will live forever. And my experience is a true experience of God's touch. And after he came into my life has changed. I love him dearly. I praise him daily. And every opportunity I try to take his message to the world. But this is the very first time God has given me the opportunity to make a video. Please do take the Bible as a storybook or a novel. If you don't believe, that's okay. I didn't believe. I didn't know anything about Bible, but I was touched. So take the Bible as a storybook. Read it every day, half an hour. It doesn't matter what faith you are. And if God is willing to touch you, he will touch you. He will show himself. He will reveal himself. And that will be the greatest happiness that you can have. Please take this message of mine seriously, because one day there is going to be judgment. And when judgment is happening, you will be judged, because God is truth and God cannot lie. He loves us. He gives us the opportunity while we are living in this world. But once we die, that's it. It's finished. So take this very, very seriously and follow God. Read the Bible and search for him. If you search, you will find him. If you don't search, you're not going to find him, right? God said knock, and you will find. You will knock, seek, and search. Let my experience touch you, be a blessing to everyone who is listening. Thank you.